President Trump announcing he is taking control of Washington, D.C. and the police and deploying the National Guard.
I saw this piece earlier. It's very interesting. They're going to say a couple things here that trigger me to no end. But unfortunately, that's the name of the game now. You're going to hear the Fox News host say, who cares about statistics? What actually matters is anecdotes. Okay? Get ready. Because obviously the data doesn't correspond to the narrative that these guys are cultivating. So either you have two options there. Either you tackle the data, you directly fight back and you say the data is wrong for this reason or that reason, or you just completely drop that and go, crime is up because I feel like crime is up. Okay? It's my personal feeling. It's my personal feeling that matters more.
On crime in our nation's capital.
We've got to repeal these laws of the left-leaning D.C. Council, one member of whom I just indicted recently, and we've got to make this place safe for the people in the district.
D.C.'s sole congressional delegate is calling this all political overreach, but D.C.'s police union is applauding the White House for taking action.
In order to fix this problem and make sure that it doesn't ebb and flow and that the feds come in and we lower crime and then they leave and we're left holding the bag, it's very important that people know that there is underlying legislation that needs to be corrected so that we can actually properly staff this police department in order to properly police the city.
Now, the president says he's open to additional crime crackdowns in major cities like Chicago and Los Angeles. The mayor of Chicago said if Trump were to send the National Guard, that it would destabilize the city. That's the quote out of Chicago.
The dynamic was so fascinating yesterday because you have the mayor come out and go, well, crime is down. I don't know why he's doing this. He's got a pandemic mindset. But almost everyone in the press room is
This is the best part.
living in Washington or the surrounding areas. So you don't need to see a bar graph or a pie chart.
Don't look at it. Don't look at the pie graphs. Don't look at the bar chart. Don't look at the data. Don't look at the data. Don't look at the data. My feelings, and your feelings. Oh, you don't actually feel like crime is actually that significant of a problem in DC, or you feel like it's gotten significantly better? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. My feelings over your feelings. Please stop. Stop looking at facts. Don't look at the data. Don't look at the data. What are you, gay? What are you, woke? They're fucking the framing here from a mainstream instrument of media is so alarming, dude. Like, these guys are supposed to be... There's certain things that they're not supposed to do. This is one of the things that they're not supposed to do, okay? As someone who studies criminology and lives in the DMV, this shit is so infuriating. It's just like, it's so fucking frustrating to be like, no, don't look at the data. Data lies. Data is a liar.
The sense that no matter your proclivity or what you thought of the president, the people in that room know there's a problem with crime in that city, regardless of what stat is out there.
Brian, I couldn't agree with you more because statistics don't tell the entire story. And obviously, if you're a victim of crime or if you know somebody...
Statistics don't tell the reality. Oh, that's right. Hey, man. Perhaps there is a need for statistics for this exact same reason, because personal anecdotes, especially as it pertains to crime, are so emotional. When you have a degree of emotional investment, when you actually have like a low impact crime, let's say someone broke into your car, okay? Someone broke into your car. They didn't even steal anything. They just broke your window. That is a costly endeavor for you. But more importantly, it's an emotional endeavor. Why is it an emotional endeavor? Because you feel like your sense of security has been ripped away from you. I totally understand why someone who's been victim to such an act is going to feel insecure, is going to feel scared, okay? So that person is obviously going to think crime is actually completely fucking out of control. It's gotten out of hand, right? This is precisely the reason why we need empirical evidence. Why do we need empirical evidence? Because anecdotes are clouded by bias, okay? And especially when it comes to something like crime, if you have been mugged or if you have experienced some kind of crime, low impact, high impact, doesn't matter. Your personal relationship with this, with whether or not crime is completely out of control is going to be completely out of whack. We have no way. You have no way at that point to like make an assessment. It's just your own personal individual experience. And it is completely clouded by the emotional impact that had on your life. This is precisely the reason why we have to rely on data to make policy decisions. Because if we don't rely on data to make these policy decisions and we rely on like personal anecdotes, then we're fucking cooked. Then this kind of insane enforcement comes into mind as the only solution. So you want empirical things now, socialist boy? Yes. Didn't you know that crime is a naturally occurring phenomenon that is not rooted in any systemic, economic, or sociological problems, and that people engaged in crime also aren't included in that classification of the people of DC? There are non-people. Yeah. Is it really relevant though? I feel like people will believe what fits best their narrative, no matter how valid evidence are. Shouldn't we focus on this fear or fight against it with emotions, feelings, rather than facts? I mean, sure, that plays a role in this commentary as well, certainly. But like, first and foremost, I think it's important to address not only the actual facts, not only the reality, the facts, but also talk about why these guys have completely moved away and sidestepped the importance of like doing any sort of like real data analysis and simply are at the mercy of individual anecdotes, right? Because the difference to this is just like doing a man on the street interview with regular citizens of DC and asking them if they like having military on the fucking streets. Does that make them feel safe? The problem is the media never does that, okay? Like, I'll give you another example of crime panic and also bullshit over enforcement of crime panic narratives. New York City subways are some of the safest around the planet, but there are still obviously incidents that take place in New York City subways. If you were to ask people in the media, they say it's bedlam, okay? They say New York City subways are unimaginably unsafe, that there is a murder happening every 5 seconds, okay? And what do you have to do to combat this fear that people have? You have to send in as many fucking militarized police forces as possible to the New York City subway so they can sit there and play Candy Crush. If you were to ask people how they felt about all of these like heavy duty, heavy set, militarized cops at subway stations playing Candy Crush, they didn't like it. They didn't like it at all. Like, the people who are actually commuters don't like it. But it doesn't fucking matter, because you can frame you can frame it in an incredibly biased way. You can always find someone that says like, I feel much safer now that I know, you know, Officer Hernandez playing Candy Crush on his phone is here collecting thousands of dollars in overtime. You know what I mean?
It matters a much bigger deal to you as opposed to just seeing something on a bar graph. And you asked a question about the reporters. I'll tell you, I went to the Starbucks yesterday before going to the White House. I asked this barista, she's got a 4-year-old boy. She's out there every day at 5 in the morning working her butt off. I said, what do you think about the National Guard coming? She goes, thank God they've got to get the city under control, because she deals with the homeless in the store. She's got to deal with the crime in Anacostia. DC residents, yes, they are aware that this is going to be a huge political fight, but there is absolutely a crime problem in the nation's capital.
Yeah, if you live in a neighborhood, you just want safety. You don't care how it's done. So Donald Trump said that he's invoking this under Section 740 of the DC Home Rule Act. He had to notify Congress, right? Yeah. And he is able to bring in the National Guard for the next 30 days without having a vote from Congress.
Brother, a cool story, by the way. But also, even if it was true, how is the military the solution to this? We're such a stupid society, man. We are so fucking stupid. This wave of anti-intellectual thought has completely destroyed any kind of good governance that we could have. There are homeless people everywhere. Okay, how do we solve it? I don't know. Fix the housing market. Offer them fucking permanent shelter. Okay, and then start the rehabilitation process with the housing first policy. Okay, those are successful methods of combating homelessness. Nah, I don't want to do that. Like, nobody asked why the guy is homeless, how he got there, how we can make sure that this doesn't happen again. We're just like, oh, I don't want to see it. Gross. Get him out of here.
Congress, is that right?
Ainsley, that is right. And he did notify the appropriate committees yesterday. So basically the clock is ticking. This gives Congress until mid-September to decide whether or not they want to extend the emergency. But this is unprecedented. We don't know what this is going to look like in the next week, 2 weeks, whether or not this is actually going to be well received by DC residents. Or
what do I say to people who think they're just lazy? I mean, majority of homeless people actually have jobs. They're just living out of their fucking cars. And it's not about laziness at all. Like, they literally work. They just are priced out of the housing market. A reality that is a lot closer to the average American than they think as well, by the way. You're like one fucking horrible medical incident away from also being on the streets. And many Americans are there. they just don't realize it and turn a blind eye to it. And they see, I've talked about this before with different tiers of homelessness. Like I call it the 3 tiers of homelessness. Like the most invisible tier of homelessness is the majority of homeless people, which are like people without permanent shelter, a permanent home, either couch surfing or living out of their cars. They still go to their jobs, you know what I mean? But then like, because they don't have access to running water at any given moment all the time, it becomes increasingly more difficult to maintain your job. And then you go into tier 2 of homelessness where you're like in the period where you're like kind of living outdoors and braving the elements and don't have any shelter whatsoever because you can't pay for your car or whatever, right? Basically, you arrive at the 3rd tier of homelessness, which is what most people see or most people think when they think about homelessness, which is like a person who has been out there for a decade. And at that point, you know, they've kind of lost their minds a little bit, understandably so. And they're constantly experiencing like mental health episodes in public. They have nowhere to go. And it's much more difficult for them to be reintegrated into, normal society. But the idea that like people are homeless for fun is so idiotic. I don't understand how people say that. Like they just don't think about it at all, I guess. Like they, in their minds, they have it like never considered how insane that statement is. Like I will never understand that.
Or if there's going to be pushback, my bet, Ainsley, guys, would be that by the weekend, when there's going to be an uptick in whether or not there's people out and about, whether we see more crime and how it's handled, if people say this is a good thing, or they're saying this is going in the wrong direction. But we had a fatal shooting just last night. So crime certainly, that was my favorite point, was that the council was saying there is no crime emergency. And then we had a fatal shooting 1 mile from the White House, Logan Circle.
Yeah. Of one fatal shooting a mile away from the White House does not mean there's a crime emergency. What are you talking about? There's never going to be zero crime, dude. You say that there is no crime emergency because crime rates in DC are down to 30-year lows. Okay. Well, my retort to that is that a crime happened last night. Oh shit, dude. I didn't realize that not having an imminent crime emergency. I didn't realize that meant that like, no crimes are supposed to happen ever. Fucking got him. Sick. You know what the worst part about this is that the worst part of this narrative is that like a lot more people find comfort in this kind of fucking argumentation. And when the overwhelming majority of society is looking at it and saying, what the fuck do you mean there's no crime emergency? A murder happened. And that's like the best possible counter narrative against anyone that tries to say, hey, you have to look at the data to make these decisions. Like, what are you talking about? Like, people have actually tackled crime. Crime is obviously going to happen. It's not good that it's happening. And we should continue to try to solve this problem. But the real way to solve this problem is by focusing on the underlying material circumstances in which crime manifests. When you say that, the easiest counter to that is shut the fuck up, you nerd. You're woke and gay. Crime is happening and I'm scared. It's endlessly easy to make the person, your interlocutor, look like a fucking silly person by simply saying data is woke, data is lame, you're a nerd, shut the fuck up, my vibes over, my vibes and everybody else's vibes over whatever kind of fucking weird narrative you're attempting to push for. I'm scared.
Is a nice area of this city. Not that it means that it shouldn't happen in other areas, but it's still absolutely happening.
All right, Mark. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Our children, and the murder rates are plummeting. We are now able to report that the murder rate is on track to be the lowest in U.S. history.
Whoa, wait a minute. What? What the fuck? What the heli? What the heliante? Wait, hold on. I'm confused, bro. I didn't know he was just a little guy, by the way. That's kind of funny. Huh. Interesting. I guess it's already working. Donald Trump's true positioning has worked already in spectacular ways, in ways that you never thought was possible. Pre-crime is down.
Thank you, Mark.
So we've heard stories for years. We've seen camera crews be attacked. But I'm sorry, their questioning of the president during the press conference yesterday wasn't reflective of that. And they kept citing numbers. Well, we have some numbers for you. So if you compare Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia's crime to everyone in the country, when it comes to total violent crime, it's the 10th highest in the country. When it comes to homicides, it's the 4th highest in the country. And vehicle theft, which we've heard this for years now with the carjack, they're number 1 in the country. So don't tell us that it's safe and the president's overreacting and that the numbers are going down when this is the case?
Yeah, we hear all about drugs down in Colombia, right? When you compare D.C. to other countries around the world, look how much higher the murder rates in that capital city per 100,000 people is.
What's one aspect of the murder rates that are seemingly so much lower in these other capital cities? I can't seem to put my finger on the trigger. Maybe it's because we are the gun burger nation state on the planet. America is an incredibly violent country, and it's incredibly easy to be violent in this country.
D.C. has almost 28. Colombia, 15. Mexico City, almost 11. Islamabad, 9.2. Lima, Peru, 7.6. Paris, 1.6. You get the idea. But D.C. is, 27 times higher than London?
So here's the thing. I think the mayor gets it. So she was like torn at her press conference because what city wouldn't want additional law enforcement to help suppress crime? It makes them look better. Number one, you want to make sure your neighbors are safe, and everybody knows it's not safe. The numbers are down to compare it where it was. And then I see this story yesterday. The Metropolitan Police Department confirmed that Mike Pulliam was placed on paid administrative leave. Why? Because he accused his commander of deliberately falsifying crime data. So Pullman, the former commander of the 3rd District of the Columbia Heights, was placed on leave with pay and told he's under investigation for, get this, questionable changes to crime data. Now, he says that came after a week after he filed a complaint against the executive assistant chief for doing the same thing. So
the crime
one way or another,
might not be right.
So more problems with the numbers. We always wonder, what are you doing with the numbers? It doesn't feel as safe.
As far as cities with the highest murder rate, it's poverty and access to weapons. That's it. When you have poverty and you have access to weapons, it's a PvP unlocked area, okay? America is a PvP server. There is a major reason why people talk about how fucking safe they feel walking in the streets of European capitals. There's like theft that happens there too, But it's because motherfuckers don't have guns, and you know that. So when you don't have guns, when you don't have readily available weapons, okay, when the guy coming up to you probably doesn't have an arsenal under his fucking coat, you feel a lot safer. Income inequality has a higher correlation than straight poverty, for sure. Yes, income inequality is right. It's not just poverty. It's poverty relative to wealth. I mean, even wealth and poverty are relative concepts anyway. But if you have an area that is wrought with poverty and then an area that is not, an area that is wealthy, you're going to have a lot of crime. They'll take away guns from low-income neighborhoods for a different reason, though. Brother, they will not. They cannot, and they will not. There is no way of just doing they're already trying to do that with stop and frisk. It doesn't work. They have tried this. I suspect the Trump administration will try to nationalize stop and frisk anyway, and it'll make people feel like this police state is doing some kind of enforcement, and it's enforcement that is heavily racialized anyway. So then the white people will feel safer about their guns. Using New York City as a benchmark for high crime rate is so unimaginably false and grasping at the highest reaching straws. What? I didn't. I'm saying that New York City tried to tackle gun violence by doing stop and frisk, which is a fucking racist ass policy, and it didn't work. It was a failure. They didn't find guns. They just ended up constantly stopping and frisking black people and brown people. That's all they did.
That way, and you certainly don't feel that way in the subways. And then you have the anecdotal information. But now I can't even believe the numbers are going in the right direction, even though the numbers are not strong. But guys, this is just the beginning. I think he's going Baltimore. I think he's going Chicago. I think he's going Philadelphia. I think he's going New York. And you know why? Because
I noticed you didn't mention any of the red states. Interesting. Bro, he's looking at him like, I noticed you're mentioning a lot of black cities.
last time he saw what happened, he listened to the
What's up with that?
pushback when he put the national troops in Portland and Seattle, and then he pulled them back and said he was the problem. In retrospect, he knows he wasn't. Those cities were allowed to get out of control so they could blow off steam, and he said, not this time. And I'm doing it not for me. I'm doing it for the people of that city who didn't vote for me. I'm doing it for the country.
It's adults that deserve to be able to work safely, but it's also the kids. They deserve to grow up in safe neighborhoods and not be impacted by the gangs as well that is forcing them. Either you choose the James.
Yeah, Brandon Scott is a great example of like lowering the fucking homicide rate in Baltimore. I've talked about this briefly. A big part of that was obviously training programs for at-risk youths and also after-school programs in general. That's it. There's a solution for this, okay? Especially when you come across like youth crime, which is what started this process in DC to begin with. Like, kids need something to do. They're kids. They're literally kids. Your brain hasn't developed. And they just need something to do. And if they don't have anything, if they had parks, if they had tournaments like sporting events and things of that nature, then they wouldn't be doing this shit. It's sometimes something as simple as literally opening the parks at night and throwing like basketball tournaments and shit like that. I'm not even joking. After school programs are so successful in eradicating youth crime. It is insane.